Okay, this video is to show how I insert elastic into a pocket diaper. I'm using the Babyville Boutique Ultimate Pocket Diaper pattern in the size newborn. First thing I do, after I've already put in the snaps and the pocket and sewed all the way around the diaper and turned it right side out. And then I marked where the elastic is going to go. And then I like to mark a 1/2 inch on the outside of all of my elastic marks. That way I can put the elastic here, and then this would be my stitch line for the elastic. Just makes it easier. And I like to do it on the inside, that way I can see through the lining to the elastic. I already have my elastic cut. I like to use the 1/4 inch braided elastic for the legs, and then I believe this is 5/8 inch baby soft elastic for the back. It just makes it a lot softer and more flexible. To get the amount of elastic that you need to use for a seam, you measure from tack point to tack point, which on my diaper would be the inside lines, and then you divide that by 1/2, and then you add your seam allowance. So for example, if it's 10 inches from tack point to tack point, then you're going to divide that in 1/2, which makes it 5, and then add a 1/2 inch on each side. So my elastic would be 6 inches long for the leg piece. And you just do the same for the back. Okay, I'm working with one hand, so I can't show you how I put the elastic in there, but I put it in through the pocket, and then felt for this mark right here. When the elastic reaches this mark, then I stop and put the pin right here in my stitching line. And then I do the same thing for the other side. You can feel the elastic just hits this line right there. And then so I put the pin there. A lot of people don't use pins when they're sewing diapers, but I do, as long as it's in my seam allowance or where I'm going to be stitching anyway. I have my machine set up with yellow bobbin thread and then white top thread because I'm going to be sewing it this way. And I don't like the thread to be, you know, white thread on yellow or whatever. Okay, so I'm putting it under my foot with the stitch line centered, and then I'm going to lower the foot and then take out my pin. I have the stitch like just at the average length, and then once I go to do my top stitching, I'll lengthen that just a little bit. Okay, so I go back and forth just a few times. Okay, and that's it. And then I'll trim my threads later. That's what it looks like on the inside. And it's actually kind of ugly on the outside because I'm working with one hand, and when you start sewing you want to hold these threads down, otherwise your machine will pull it up and through your fabric. I'll finish one without the camera and then show you that. Finished inserting all of the elastic. You can see that the threads are much neater on these last ones that I did compared to the first one. The only thing I did different was holding the tail ends of the thread while I started stitching. Next I'm going to top stitch. One thing I didn't mention is when you pin in the elastic, you want it to be as close to this edge as possible. I have it butted right up to that seam, and I found that it makes a lot neater leg seam if you have the elastic on this side of the seam in there. So all the extra seam is on the back of the elastic. On to the top stitching. I changed the top thread is yellow now and the bottom is white because I'm going to be sewing on the top of the fabric. And I want to change my stitch length up just 2. And I stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the edge until I get to the elastic, and then I'll go to the end of my tack point right there. As I'm sewing, I try to pull the fabric out so it makes for a smoother edge. And I forgot, I like to sew with the needle in the down position. Just one of the perks of my machine that I like to use whenever I can. It makes it easier to turn the corners. Okay, and I stopped right on my tack point. You can see the thread from the elastic that I sewed in is right below my needle. So then I'm going to lift up my foot and turn. And I'm going to go all the way down to the end of my tack point. I usually count how many stitches in it is. That way they're all the same. And I believe it's 4. Yeah. Okay, so I went 4 stitches in and then turn again. And then this time I'm going to try with one hand to stretch the elastic as I sew and keep it as close to this edge as possible because I don't want to sew over it. Okay, so I have it stretched right here to the middle, and once I get to the middle then I'm going to have to readjust again. This is more difficult with one hand than I imagined. Okay, see right now I have the wicking fabric on the outside, so I'm going to try and pull it under so that it's on the underside. I'm getting a little further away from the edge than I'd like. Okay, and once again I'm going to stop right at that thread and then pivot until it should be 4 stitches again, but I might have gone a little bit further away, so I'm just going to stop when I get an 1/8 inch away from the edge. And then turn. This is the front of the diaper. You can see the wing is tucked in there. So I'm just going to pull that out. And then keep sewing around the edge. Okay, so you kind of get the gist of how I do the elastic. I'm going to finish it up and then show you what it looks like. Here's the diaper when it's all finished. This is the edge that I did while I was showing you, and then this is the one I did on my own. You can see the difference because the wicking material is on the top side on this side, and it's also further away from the edge than on this side. I like to stay just on the outside of the elastic without catching the elastic. The easiest way to do that is to pull the fabric and the elastic at the same time as you're sewing.